Greetings, GameCola faithful, and welcome to the GameCola Spookcast. This is podcast number 90, back from the dead, and with me I have my ghostly associates, Alex Jedrazczak, Jeff Nemeth, Shannon Hoover, newcomer Stefano, Bryniarski, and Nathaniel Hoover. Everyone, introduce yourselves.
Isn't this a little late for...
Put that on a little...
That was the longest
go a little
intro.
longer on that.
Isn't this a little late for a spooky Halloween?
It's one day, Jetty. Halloween was less than 24 hours ago for anyone listening.
Somebody's going to make a complaint about it.
Well, by then we might as well do a Christmas theme.
No, you're not skipping Thanksgiving. I will not allow it.
We could just, and
I will not see it overshadowed. Next podcast is Thanksgiving-themed podcast.
I got it. We'll throw in some, fan art of Nightmare Before Christmas.
All right,
everyone. We got Halloween and Christmas.
Introduce yourselves, everyone.
I'm Alex Jedrazczak, editor-in-chief of GameCola.net.
I guess I will go next. I'm Jeff. I play games, I write about games, and occasionally I make games. And I work at a GameStop. Yay!
That was very spooky.
Yeah, Jeff's not a very spooky name.
I should change it to Bob.
I'm Shannon Hoover, and I'm a staff writer for GameCola and an occasional podcaster.
I'm Stefano Wohsdioghasdhisdg, and I'm the newcomer.
I'm Nathaniel Hoover, and I'm not very good at Halloween.
And I'm Bryniarski. I am master of all things spooky.
I completely forgot we were supposed to introduce ourselves with spooky names.
I mean, I didn't. I just introself to my deuce. Introduced myself with a spooky voice.
I could have said something like Jeddracula or like Dracula. Because see, like Jedpire, then like Draculac. I missed my grand opportunity.
Jedrazzacula?
Is that like milk for lactose intolerant?
Podcast 90, take number 2.
No, let's keep going.
We'll do it live.
Right. Yeah.
All right, here. Let's go. So this has actually been something. This is sort of Halloween because you might have heard on other podcasts that I've been working through Shovel Knight, and I finished both Shovel Knight and the expanded Plague Knight DLC, which is a little more spooky appropriate. Both of which I really liked. But one of the things that came into my mind, so in one of the Plague Knight battles in particular, there's a boss fight, and I'll keep it as little spoilers as possible. But there's a boss fight where as you go on, there's a section where the boss gets bombs and blows up middle sections of the stage that you can fall in and instant die. And I really didn't like that. And I was my immediate reaction was, no boss fight should ever have instant death in them. Just never. It's a terrible idea. And then I thought about all of the boss fights that did have instant death in them that I was okay with, like Bubble Man. So I was wondering, for the staff's consideration, how do you feel about instant death, opportunities in boss fights?
Wait.
Just as a general game design principle, the easier it is to fail, the lower the penalty should be. And the harder it is to fail, the harsher the penalty should be, just as a general rule. That doesn't always need to be true. But with boss battles, if you're going to do something that instantly kills somebody in the middle of it, it should be easy enough to avoid. They should telegraph it, or it should be something that's very unlikely to happen. So I actually just came across a very similar situation. I'm playing through Mega Man Rock Force, a fan game, and without trying to spoil anything, there's one boss that out of nowhere suddenly dives at you where you're standing and breaks the floor, and you fall through the floor. And there's no foreknowledge of this. There's nothing that shows you that this floor can be busted through. There's nothing that suggests the boss is going to do anything remotely close to that. It's just, and now I'm instantly dead. And that ticks me off to no end. So that kind of thing, very unpleasant. But I know that there are other bosses, and they're not coming to mind right at the moment, I'm sure somebody else can help me out here, that are actually okay to have instant death because you can kind of see it coming.
Hey, which boss was that? I'm trying to remember.
Well, I'm trying not to spoil it, so I won't say anything.
Oh, well, I've already played it, so you can spoil it to me.
Not for you, for the audience.
Whisper
You're not
it
the
to
only
me.
person listening to this podcast.
You can say it, and I'll say it now, and I'll edit it out.
Okay, it's...
Oh, well, that probably explains it.
There you go.
And B, I thought of another boss from Mega Man Unlimited who kind of has that same concept, where he can instantly die. Only difference is he's got like this explosive stuff in the top of his head. And if you shoot him at the upper part of his body, he starts glowing. After he takes a few shots, and he blows up and kills both of you. So I sort of get what you're getting there at.
Because that's like you have to. It's something
like you have to shoot him at the lower part of the body in order to actually defeat him, and that's also gives you like I shouldn't be doing that because he's glowing. Wonder. Like you learn from your mistakes, not that like you shoot him only once and boom, you're dead.
I guess another way to balance it out is to like make it so that the only way that you can lose the fight is the instant death. Like I'm thinking of Yoshi's Island, where one of the bosses is like this goo thing that moves towards you, and it can't, like, even if you run into it, it can't damage you. You just bounce off of it. But the idea is that it's constantly scooting forward. If you let it get enough ground, then you fall off the stage and instant die. But you don't also have to deal with worrying about damage and stuff like that. Like you can just focus on that one aspect, and so it's not as big a deal as, say, like a game where you have to start the whole level over and there's an instant death boss.
But in that example, do they show you that the stage has an end and that you will fall off if it gets close?
Yes.
See, that's the thing. They need to let you know so that it's not a cheap shot. I'm not okay with cheap shot deaths where you can't see them coming and you can't avoid them, and it's just, I'm dead now, so I need to play that whole level over again.
Yeah, like if they're gonna have an instant death attack, it doesn't have to be indicated, but at least don't make me play the entire stage over and over and over again.
I think that's why, like, so for something like a final boss, it might be better because a lot of the time final bosses are like their own stage. So like if you die at a final boss, a lot of the time you don't have to go through an entire stage to get back to them if you get a game over. You can just start right at the boss again. So it's not as big a deal because you can just get right back into it. Even though it still might be frustrating, it's not as, like, it's more frustrating than it is cheap, even though it could still be a little cheap. You could still design it to be cheap, but there's a little bit more of a threshold, I would think.
Yep. A threshold.
Good podcast, everybody.
Okay, well, wrap it up. So thank you for coming to this edition of
6 people, and we've run out of topics after the first one. Well done.
I kind of have one. It's more vague, though, but, I mean, what are your thoughts on horror games now? Do you think they've gotten better over the years, or do you think they're just slacking? Or, like, in any,
I don't
like...
play horror games, sorry.
Yeah, I haven't really, I don't really keep up that much with new games, but I guess, I've seen so much of a shift from, like, I guess horror to just, like, jump scares. I think we were talking about this recently.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about what makes a game scary.
Yeah, that was
That's what it was.
That was a couple podcasts back. But we didn't really end up talking about horror games. We just talked more about spooky things in games. Some of them were horror games, but it wasn't necessarily in horror games, just spooky things or things that made us nerves.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the horror games that I've either seen or played, it seems like they rely more on jump scares more than anything.
I don't,
Well,
I haven't...
just-
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I haven't played a Silent Hill since the first one, so...
But I think it's more than jump scares. It's jump scares and also just gross out factor. There's not as much cleverness and psychological horror out there, from what I've seen. There
At
could
least
be.
at least not in the mainstream games.
Yeah, not in the mainstream. Just
Well, with mainstream, it could be maybe also be like a factor of choice, like you're given an option, and depending on what it is, it affects the stories and the characters, kind of like you see in Until Dawn, that new zombie game that came out. Occasionally you get to choose like what you want to do with the character, and that affects how the character and story goes. You could have like some characters die one way, or they'll die in another. It just all depends on how you choose.
I miss the horror games where it's all atmospheric, where there may not even be an enemy there, but you're expecting something to be there because the music and the graphics is just building to something super creepy. And there's not a lot of gore, just a lot of playing with your mind. And I don't think that those are out there as much anymore.
Well, do you have an example of one that's done well that you've liked?
Well, maybe it's, that it worked like a while back, but think about how our generation is now, and that maybe it just doesn't work anymore.
You mean scary games in general?
No, like, after a while, if you play out a certain gimmick a certain amount of times, people just get used to it. Like, you come to expect this certain thing happening, and they're like, oh, there's some build-up here, maybe something is going to happen, or it's dark here and I can't see what's going on. Maybe something will pop out. It's just like you've seen it so many times that you start to expect what's going to happen, and it doesn't even scare you anymore.
See, that doesn't happen for me. I'm still scared. I'm still scared, even if like you could tell me sometimes I'll go into like people playing horror games, and I'll like look up the time, like someone will post in the comments like the time codes of when all the scary things happen, and even then I'm like sitting, I'm like, is it covered? It's covered. I know it's at 9:13. There's gonna be a jump scare. The 9:13 there's a jump scare. Like
Or they could just be jerks and put like 3 seconds before that.
Yeah, I know. but I mean, it's like. To me, it's like even that, like those things that you mentioned, like, oh, there's a dark spot, maybe there's going to be something scary there. That's part of it. Like that is there going to be something scary this time? Like I'm thinking of PT, which stands for Playable Teaser, but it was like sort of a Silent Hill. It was made by the people who made Silent Hill. But like going through it, I didn't play it. I watched people play it because I am a pansy. But one of the things about it was like you'd go through it and there were times where you would walk through and absolutely nothing would happen. And it's sorry to give for anyone who hasn't seen PT. Basically what happens is the general idea is that like we walk through it, out a door, down a corridor, then you like turn right and walk down another corridor that like goes to there's like a front door and like a second stair banister, and you walk there and then you go through another door, like you go down some stairs, and then when you go through that door you end up at the first hallway again, and you just go through that a whole bunch of times, and different things happen each time, different spooky things happen each time you go through, and like based on your actions you sort of advance it until this spooky scary thing happens. Either you beat it or a spooky scary thing happens and you die. But
well, I think that finish what you're saying.
Oh yeah, it's just so like a lot of the time though, like, a door might open and there's like a crack in it and you're like, there's a crack in the door. Is something going to come jump out at me? But then you walk by and nothing happens, but you're still, so like it sets up a precedent of if something jumped out of the door every time it opened, then you'd be like, oh, the door's cracked. Something's going to jump out at me. But by doing it like only sometimes, you're like, well, I don't know. Like, even though like something could jump out, it's like you're still not 100% sure. So like a lot of those, I guess a key point to some of those tells is not always acting on them. I don't know what my original
That's more what I was getting at, was setting up that atmosphere of you just don't know, and having it play with your psychology more than with, oh, here's, gore and blood.
Yeah, like a lot of the more mainstream horror games are either, oh, look at all this gore and blood, or, hey, here's a bunch of spooky things, shoot them with guns.
But, I mean, is that the case? Because speaking as someone who doesn't actually play any of them and only sort of hears about them, it seems to me like the ones that are more popular tend to be the ones that, as far as I'm aware, kind of gravitate towards more of those, like, and your actual, however much you like these games may vary, but the ones that I've seen that seem to have been popular are the Amnesia series. PT was popular when it came out. Five Nights at Freddy's. There was one more. What was the other one? That might be all that I can remember right now. But those were ones that were very popular, and they didn't seem very. There might have been some bloody stuff in there, but a lot of it was like I'm pretty sure in Amnesia you don't shoot people with guns. So maybe there's a lot of horror games coming out, but I feel like the ones that get popular are the ones that sort of avoid going, this is blood and guts, so therefore scary.
Well, I just think of like the Resident Evil games. And yes, there is some psychological and there is some jump scaring, but a lot of the time it's just shoot a bunch of zombies. Hey, look, more zombies. Shoot some zombies.
That's what I was referring to. It's like the earlier Resident Evil games. It's more about, like, here's the zombies, then you only have a limited amount of ammo, and then it's like, what's going to happen next? Is there going to be a zombie? I sure hope not, because I'm almost dead and I have, like, 1 bullet left. And in the newer ones, it's just shoot a bunch of zombies.
Is not to be a contrarian about something I know nothing about, which is what I seem to be doing right now. But,
You're wrong.
no. But, like, to me, I mean, yes, it's frustrating. Because, like, those are good horror game series that sort of have become not horror games anymore. They've become, it sounds like what has happened is they become more like action-oriented games. But I guess there's, like, it's, to me, like, there's still good horror games these days. They're just not in the same series that they used to be. And a lot of the good horror series that used to be good horror series have moved away to become more action-oriented to sort of appeal to a broader audience. Maybe? Is that an okay thing to say when I know nothing about this topic? I don't know why I keep talking.
I think that is a good statement to make.
Yeah, I think they've started blending a little bit with the first-person shooter genre and kind of just become generic action-y warfare style games. So I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
What about the Walking Dead game? Has anybody played that one? The adventure game? I know that at least 1 or 2 people on staff have, but maybe not accounted for here.
I think it's like Paul Franz and
I was going to say, yeah, that sounds like a very...
I think Diana's doing a playthrough of that.
Yeah.
Again, my impression, again, is I keep talking about things I know very little about, but my impression of those games is that they would be less horror and more thriller, if that makes sense. There's lots of moments of really big suspense, but it's not like as scary. Like the distinction between horror and thriller in general, I think, is a very subtle one. But I think that's what it would be more characterized as. I'm not sure though.
Well, I think even the names of the genres themselves kind of give it away. Thrillers are to thrill, of that exhilaration of, wow, I can't believe all this is going on. This is such a rush. And horror is, I'm horrified at what's going on here. I'm recoiling and repulsing. So I think probably just, if we're going to talk about it in motion terms, thrillers are ones that you lean into, and horror games are ones that you lean away from.
Yeah. And it seems like the Walking Dead ones are ones where it's very much a lean into kind of thing, where you're like, I really care about this and I'm invested and I want to make the best outcome, and I'm worried that that's not going to happen because of I make the wrong decision. Again, though, I haven't ever played the games, so take my podcast listeners, take my opinions with a grain of salt. Yeah.
Then you'll get salty opinions.
Joseph Martin's Salted Opinions.
Well, it's possible that there are good horror games out there and we just don't know about them yet or haven't played them yet. So people should leave comments on this podcast telling us what horror games we should check out that we didn't know about.
Ooh.
I thought we were the masters of non-mainstream gaming.
Right, that's why we don't know which horror games are popular.
Oh.
Perfect.
Oh, actually...
Actually? Jetty has an actually.
Indeed I do.
Huh?
A wild actually.
Jetty said actually. It must be a podcast topic.
Wait, what was it? The secret word?
The secret slime word is...
I was going more along with a pup named Scooby-Doo, where like a regular line was, Velma said Jinkies. It must be a clue.
Oh. No, I was thinking of the secret word on Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse.
Oh, that's another good way to go.
Actually is a pretty boring secret word, though. The secret word is actually.
Okay. Anyway.
Thank you!
So we have...
No, we don't.
Sorry, I was going to say 2, but the thing is that this other one has been around... Oh, no, I guess it's not been that long. It's been around since, like, July. We have fan mail.
Oh, fan mail.
Yes. All that suspense. Was it a thriller? Was it...
I hope it's not horror.
Romantic comedy? Is that what you said?
I might have.
So here's the thing. Number 1, has anyone here played Zero Escape?
Well, there's the comedy.
Because, okay, like, this one's been sitting here since, like, July. There was a question...
What, the year 12?
I don't know if they say...
Is Zero Escape 999 or a 10-10-10?
Well, Zero Escape
10, 10, 10.
technically is the series. For those of you not in
yeah.
the loop, we've had a perpetually in progress playthrough of the second Zero Escape Virtue's Last Reward going on the GameCola YouTube channel, gc.net, and we did a full playthrough of the original game, 999, 9 person, 9 doors, 9 numbers, too many to remember.
I think it's 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors.
Yeah, that sounds something like it.
It's been a while since I played it.
So, yes, there's been this one, and because hold on. The first line is, Zero Escape 3 was announced today.
You guys are so bad at this.
You get fan mail? Oh.
So, okay, we also have an email from No Lynch, which we can actually read on this podcast.
Okay.
It's safe for work?
It might be.
Well, you said, like, that we can actually read on this podcast,
Oh.
and one of the other ones that we can't. That's where the romantic part of the romantic comedy comes in.
I realized, so speaking of romance, did anyone see the recent Be Careful What You Search For?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
I don't remember which thing
No.
you're referring to, though. Like, which panel. Now I have to look. I want to see if
Talking
I
about number 77, yes.
Right, yeah. But I mean, like, which panel?
Oh, Miles, what a surprise seeing you here, she said, cracking her whip.
I remember that one. I didn't read all of that, but now I feel like I should have.
I guess I just realized, like, after posting it, that, like, it was supposed to be Edgeworth kissing Franziska fanfiction, and that did not specifically happen.
Got other priorities, it's okay.
Terrence just kind of started going, and that's where it ended up, so.
I like how
Terrence.
hand wrote it, like, or mouse wrote it, too. Like, it's not text. Like,
Terrence.
did every single letter.
Well, Terrence. Done that before. There was another one that was like Carmen Sandiego, something fan fiction, like, I don't remember. But yes, I mean, Terrence did it.
I was going to correct you, thank you.
Yes. Surprise.
So we have fan mail from No Lynch.
Yes, do we wanna read?
Yeah, let's give it a read.
Okay, so I heard you like emails with a Z.
I don't know where you heard that. We haven't read one since July, apparently.
Hey, guess what? It's me
What?
again.
Oh.
Hi.
Hi.
Anna.
No Lynch, self-proclaimed friend of the cola and site-proclaimed GameCola superfan.
Who
Writing
said
another.
that?
The site did. Didn't
site
you hear
has-
it proclaim it?
The site itself.
Is it on the wiki?
Game sentience. I think it may be actually. I think we do at some point on the wiki say GameCola superfan No Lynch.
Good.
Maybe on the part about fan submissions. Writing another podcast email to try to keep the embers burning at GameCola Fan HQ, aka the big cardboard box positioned outside the back door of the GameCola office building. Please don't tell the security about that, though. They've got my number about hanging around enough as it is. But you don't care about me, so let's see what I can do for you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Answers. He starts off with answers.
Oh, that's
Playing
right.
Jeopardy now?
That's
It is.
right.
It is. He says GameCola traditions for 400.
Last podcast, we specified that the people could, when people emailed us, they could ask questions or send us answers, and we'd come up with our own questions.
It all comes full circle.
So GameCola traditions for 400. A winter event
Yeah,
where
I'm
Matt
gonna-
Jonas is locked in a tall tower for 5+ consecutive hours and forced to play Christmas-themed video games for the enjoyment of a live digital studio audience.
Saturday. What is Saturday?
No, Nathaniel, he's talking about the one that we post.
The ho 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 Halloween cast? No, that's
The Ho Ho Holiday Livecast. We
yeah,
don't
that one.
specify which holiday it has to be.
What
Podcast
is
ex-
the? You have to answer in the form of
Oh, yeah.
a question.
There was a question mark at the end. I just am a very bad actor.
Should I move on to the questions?
Yes, let's see.
Yeah.
I think we thoroughly questioned that answer.
Let's interrogate the next one.
Question is, what is Saturday?
No.
Nice. So questions. What is your favorite piece of non-video game inspired media?
Oh, that's a hard
That
one.
was too many words. What?
What is your favorite piece of
I'd like to use a lifeline.
Can I, what was it, 50-50? Can I split the,
Can I phone a complete stranger?
Okay, so...
I mean, yeah, but that's not advised.
So basically, like, video game movies, video game books, video game art.
TV shows, comics.
Like, it's
web
not
comics.
a video game. Yeah, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show is not a video game, but it's video game inspired.
I don't know if this counts, but, you know, being the Mega Man fan that I am, I have to have a Mega Man answer, obviously. But the Complete Works art books, and I don't know if this counts because it's really just taking concept art and official sketches and real-life things that already existed as part of making the game or promoting the game, and they just collect all of it. But I love seeing all of that art together in one place. It's beautiful. And that's a book, and it's not actually a video game, so maybe that counts.
I mean, the question was rather vague.
I don't think Nolan is going to be particularly picky about our answer. Like, in the comments, it's like, no, you answered the question wrong.
When you did mention video game movies, it brought up something that I just remembered. I saw a trailer. I'm not sure if it's an actual thing that's going to happen, though, but I saw a trailer for a Ratchet and Clank movie.
I did hear about that.
I think that is a thing that's happening, but again, like, you never know with the internet. But I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because I can't even begin to list off how many like video game titles that I thought were actually going to turn into movies. Like they had World of Warcraft.
I'm still waiting for John Woo's Metroid.
Well, now that I bring the topic up, I can't remember all the ones that I had. I think Legend of Zelda was on there. Mega Man was one.
Well, that one I believe they actually are doing.
Oh, yeah, I remember because it was being made by Fox. And everyone was saying, oh, no, because they didn't want it to be another Fantastic Four. -3.
Super fighting robot. Mega Man.
Is this the singing podcast now?
No, that's the next one.
Yes.
Ooh.
Number 91, the
Let's
singing
do it.
podcast.
I'm on board for that.
I have
Yeah.
my musical instrument already.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Is
it's
it a
the musical podcast. It's super fun. We
What
sing
have I
a
done?
song and then we don't stay on topic at all.
What have I done?
So my answer
Available
to
for
the question-
download as a WAV file.
My answer to the question that Noah Lynch asked is probably collectible figurines. I'm a big sucker for all the figures. And for Nathaniel's birthday, I got him the huge Sigma figure with the billowing cape action.
Yeah,
It's pretty sweet.
okay. I might actually like my Mega Man X action figures more than my Mega Man X art book.
That's a good point. Like, yeah, I forgot that they have stuff like that.
We even used our Dr. Wily one with billowing lab coat action as our tree topper for our Christmas tree.
We didn't have a star or an angel. It was the next best thing. World domination from atop a tree is really... You know.
Why didn't you use Starman?
I didn't have a star. I would love a Starman.
Well, I know what I'm getting for Christmas birthday next year. That's not Mega Man! You traitor!
It's a Starman, though. It's what happens with the Starman. You cannot deny that.
Well, and knowing my wife, she'd gladly put David Bowie on top of the tree, and then we'd have a different kind of Starman.
Can we
Or one of the, or a Starman from Earthbound.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. We could just decorate our tree with various starmen.
We can do that next year. We can set up the tree right next to the cardboard box behind the GameCola company building. Just don't tell security.
No Lynch will have a place to hide.
In the Christmas tree right next to his box.
My current favorite thing is my Majora's Mask necklace that I'm wearing right now because I like it a lot. No, it's just Majora's Mask, the actual mask.
Cool.
And then I also have fabric for sorority letters that my big and I got Pokemon letters with Red and Pikachu walking around. And we're going to
Nice.
get another set of letters, Triforces on them. It's going to be great. I'm excited. That's currently my favorite.
Thinking about it, there's always the Mega Man Ruby Spears cartoon that holds a special place in my heart.
The
Just-
definitive voice acting for those characters.
I mean, that's the whole reason Wily has a German accent in pretty much any piece of media that you see. Like any piece of fan media, Wily has a German accent. That's not canon. That is purely from the Ruby Spears show. Also, Dr. Light being British has been in a couple too. Dr. Light was British in Captain N, but so was Dr. Wily. I think the same person voiced Dr. Wily in Captain N and in the Ruby Spears.
I think it was one of the same voice actors in both shows, but I don't think they did the same character. But I might be thinking of somebody else.
Well, I thought the idea was that this person did British Dr. Wily and German Dr. Wily. That was the funny thing.
But you're onto something at least.
Yeah, there's some sort of similarity going on there.
I thought that Dr. Wily in the Captain N cartoon had like a German accent as well. Although it's been a while since I watched that, so
This would have been something that I heard, not something that I didn't watch Captain N. I've never watched Captain.
I watched that when it was on the air. I ate up any kind of video game related to anything. I love the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. But yeah, the couple of the voice choices were interesting. Like Mega Man being like Mega.
And being green. He's not green unless you whip like
depending on what weapon he's using. But
I don't think there was a weapon that gave you those colors.
The sickly green.
But to go a little bit more unconventional, there was the Sonic X TV show that I remember. The Sonic X TV show was the first show I ever binge watched. It was whenever Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts was coming out, because I watched it on the 4Kids website because they just had all of Sonic X on their website, and that was the only commercial they would play, was the commercial for Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. And it played it once at the beginning of the episode, once in the middle of the episode, and once at the end of every episode. So I'd have to watch it I'd watch that a lot. But I really enjoyed it at the time, and it would be interesting to go back and try to watch it. I do recall that Chris, the character Chris, was the most Mary Sue thing I've ever seen in actual media. To give you this is all in the first episode, so it's not spoiling anything. But he is a kid who his family is rich, incredibly rich. He lives in a mansion. He has 2 servants. And he hangs out with his grandfather all the time. His parents are busy, but they make a lot of time for him. There's a general plot point that his parents are really busy, but his parents are around actually a lot, so that doesn't quite work. And he's best friends with Sonic the Hedgehog, and this kid still finds ways to complain about everything in every episode. It's come on, man. And then there's this is a little bit of spoiler territory, but it's Sonic X, so it's not that big. But there's a part where because this is in the first episode, but Sonic accidentally gets teleported into the real world, quote unquote, and that's the whole setup of the show. But so there's a part where Sonic's supposed to go back, or basically the world's gonna end, and Chris is no. I'd rather the world end than give up Sonic the Hedgehog. And then he steals Sonic. And everyone has to go try to find him because his life is so terrible that apparently not having Sonic the Hedgehog around at all times would just destroy him. And it's you that selfish that you would destroy the world just so that you could continue to hang out with Sonic the Hedgehog. Something that no other person in the world has gotten to do.
Are you saying that you wouldn't?
Well, when you put it like that. But aside from that, it was a great show. That was one really. I mean, as it goes on, Chris is all over the place in the first few episodes, but then after you get past the first arc, there's kind of no reason to write him into anything, so he kind of doesn't do anything. So then it really just becomes there's in season 2, it's basically just the plots of Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2 in TV show form. And then it goes into the aftermath of Sonic Adventure 2, which is actually kind of interesting, because that's the one where, like, Eggman, over the course of the plot of Sonic Adventure 2, Eggman blows up half the moon, and then that's
Thanks
never
for
really...
spoiling something.
I don't think it was that big a spoil. I think it was something that he threatened at the beginning.
And it's a Sonic game. I mean, who plays Sonic
But
games
it's something
for the
that's
plot?
never really addressed in any of the other games. But in the show, it's like, yeah, they like address like how they fix the moon, and like there's whole plots about like dealing with that, and it's actually kind of interesting. To wrap that all up, Sonic X is a good show that has to do with video games. It's on topic because it answers the question, even though I spent most of the time complaining about Chris. I'm gonna stop talking now.
I actually watched all of the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon from the 90s.
The goofy one or the
I
serious
watched
one?
I spent the serious one. I spent a lot of hours on that one on my last day of finals, and I only had one final starting at 5 o'clock. I did not study at all that day. I just watched Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't even like Sonic the Hedgehog that much. It was a very weird day.
I was going to ask if there were any other questions that No Lynch had, or answers, unless anybody
there's
else
like
wanted to
8
chip
more.
in.
Oh boy.
We should probably move on then.
Is there any game that you have specifically bought an entire gaming system specifically for? For example, I got my Wii to play Rhythm Heaven Fever.
Well, any Mega Man game or any Metroid game is usually a selling point for me to get a new system or put it on my wish list usually. So whatever was one of the earlier Mega Man or Metroid games to be released for any given system is probably why I got that system.
In an odd turn of events, it's funny to say that I bought a PlayStation 2 for a game, but that's to say that I bought a used PlayStation 2 halfway into the PlayStation 3 era, because I had bought, for approximately $5 American, a copy of Front Mission 4, which then sat on my shelf for about 6 months before I said, I really do want to play this game. And then I went out and spent maybe $50 on a used PlayStation 2 and played it. It was fun.
I bought a used PlayStation 3 pretty much specifically so I could play Metal Gear Solid 4.
Not a bad choice.
I can't really think of anything that I bought a system specifically to play one game. Like, there were certainly games that were, like, on my priority list to get once I got the systems, but it was never like, I need to get this system just because of this game. It was usually I say there needs to be, like, at least 2 or 3 games that I want for a system before I go into it. The only counter to that, I guess, sort of is the 3DS, which I bought to have a 3DS because there weren't really any games for it that I wanted at the time. 3DS didn't have good games for a while. There was Lego Star Wars, and it was awful. You know how, like...
3DS?
Yeah, the 3DS. You know how, like, this Lego games, like, have that sort of co-op feature? Or at least in the single player, you have, like, that... The characters have different things that they can do, and you have to, through the story mode, you have to make sure that your party of characters can get to the end.
Right.
And so you have to do things. Yeah, in 3DS, there's no co-op, and... You know how in the free play, you can hit, like, L and R?
You can cycle through characters.
Yeah, you can cycle through characters at will. You could just do that in the story mode. You just had, like, a certain selection of characters. And it was basically, switch to the character that you need to solve this puzzle. Like, to solve this puzzle, it means do the thing that the character's unique thing, and that's the puzzle. And then you be the Jedi character at all other times, because as long as you're tapping the B button, you are literally invincible. Like, nothing will ever, like, kill you. You could just stand there and tap the B button. So it wasn't fun. I beat it 100% though, because I didn't have any other 3DS games.
Yay.
That's sort of where I was. I injured my wrist a couple months back, and it took a long time to heal. But while I was doing that, I still wanted to play video games, but I didn't have that much that I could either play left-handed, because I'm right-handed and it was my right wrist, of course, or that required very little nudging. So, like, anything on the computer was mostly out, because that's intensive mouse work. So I was trying to find something that was very gentle and maybe turn-based or something like that. So I had just gotten a 3DS because my company has this really cool incentive system where you can recognize other people for a job well done and you get points. So it's sort of like, any credit card that you have that you get points for spending, and then you can spend it on a little like Amazon.com kind of warehouse thing. Like, we have that system at work, and I had just had a milestone anniversary, and turns out it was enough points. I'm looking, oh yeah, cool, let me spend some stuff. Let me look at CDs. Oh, I could buy a lot of CDs for the number of points I got for that anniversary. Let me look at Nintendo games. I could buy like 5 Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freezes. I don't really need 5 of those. One would be nice, but let me see. A 3DS and a couple points to spare. Awesome. So I got myself a new 3DS just because I could, with the anticipation of eventually someday probably finding a game that I'd want to play for it. And I had, Nintendo, I want to say Nintendo Power, that's not it. The Nintendo points, Club Nintendo, that I had only just like a couple months prior discovered, oh wait, this is a thing you can do. You can get free stuff just for doing what you normally do, buying games. And then they said, oh, by the way, we're closing this wonderful magical paradise that you've just found. So I quickly spent all of my Wii or whatever, the Nintendo points, just blew it all on 3DS stuff. So I got myself Radar Mission and Twinbee. Now, if you've seen the Q&A cola that we had recently about a game mechanic that utterly ruins a game, you know what I think about Twinbee. But I did try that while my wrist was injured, because you can basically not do much other than tap a button every once in a while. So that worked out okay. And then Radar Mission is really easy because it's Battleship. So you're not, you're not rapidly mashing buttons and it's like you can actually put it on the table and play left-handed if you need to, and it's all very nice and turn-based. So that's where I got all of my 3DS use out of, is having an injured wrist. I'm like, oh, I got to play something. These are easy.
Did you get a new 3DS?
A new 3DS?
You got a new 3DS.
Yes.
As opposed to not a used
Correct.
3DS.
As in a brand new 3DS.
Why did they name it that?
So it wasn't a used new 3DS?
No, it didn't look like it. But interestingly, it didn't come with a power cord. I had to buy that separately.
Nice.
Does it not use the same power cord as or I guess if you didn't, I don't know if you had a 3DS before.
No, I didn't.
Or a DS. Oh, I guess you probably did. Then you didn't.
No,
DSi, that's the one.
I jumped straight from the plain old DS to the new 3DS.
Okay. Right. It was weird because I think it was the DS and the DS Lite have the same charger.
Yeah. And
then the DSi had a different charger, even though it played all the same games. And then the 3DS charger was the same as the DSi charger. But you'd think the split would be between DSi and 3DS, not DS Lite and DSi. But that's okay. That makes sense. But speaking of you were talking about playing with your left hand, and this is thematically appropriate, though I know you don't play Pokemon, so it's not helpful for you in particular. But there was a cool feature in some of the games where you could set it to, there was a mode called L equals A. And so I don't know if other games do this. Pokemon's just the one that I know of. But what you could do is you could hold it in one hand and then D-pad and then you have A. And you very rarely need to hit B in that game. So you can do it one-handed pretty easily like that.
So it was Earthbound mode.
I guess.
Well, we need to say farewell to Jeff.
Yeah. Bye.
We're going to eject him out of the airlock now.
Yeah.
Bye, Jeff!
Speaking of 3DS stuff, Nathaniel, you posted
some exciting news.
Yeah,
okay. So it's slightly old news now, but if you were following me on social media at the time when this hit, you'll know all about it. So Capcom has a blog, Capcom being the people who make Mega Man, and this year they came out with the Mega Man Legacy Collection, and I did a live stream and I wrote about it for GameCola and have been talking about it here and there. And then Capcom had a contest on their blog of, so you've played the Mega Man Legacy Collection, you know that we have challenge stages, which are taking bits and pieces of existing Mega Man games, of the first 6 NES games, and smashing them together, and you just jump from one section to the next. We're challenging you to put together your own challenge stage of between 5 and 10 sections of any of the first 6 Mega Man games and submit them, and 10 lucky winners will have their challenge stage featured in the 3DS version of the Mega Man Legacy Collection coming out in like January, February, March, somewhere early 2016. So, of course, I entered. And I was very excited about this, too, because the way they had it set up was the form that you filled out to contribute was an Excel spreadsheet that had slots for you to put in YouTube videos and the timestamps of, someone playing through the Mega Man game that you're pulling from and what the start and end points were in that video for the section of level that you wanted to, which makes a lot more sense than saying, you remember that one part of Mega Man 3 where there's like the things flying at you? I want you to do it there for like 5 minutes. No, that would have been awful. So they actually acknowledged their fan community and said, we know that people are making videos of Mega Man games, and unlike Nintendo, we're totally cool with this. In fact, we encourage you to go watch somebody's playthrough of Mega Man and pull the timestamps from it to show us what section of level you want. Well, I've been playing through the Mega Man games for several years and have been recording playthroughs for YouTube. So I kind of did a little bit of shameless self-promotion in the process when I put in my entry of saying, so hey, at the, the 5-minute 50-second mark of Nathaniel Hoover's Mega Man 5 playthrough, let's do this. And so I sent it off. Capcom reviewed all of their entries, and I was looking at the official contest rules, and it was funny because it was like submission deadline is September 26th or something like that, and they said winners will be announced between September 24th and 28th. I'm like, wait, how can you be announcing winners before the contest even closes? And so I checked back because I was a little concerned. I'm like, oh, maybe I didn't win. And then I checked back, and then they changed the deadline. They're like, no, October 2nd. We were just kidding about that first deadline. I'm like, okay, have a little bit of time. So I'm sitting there waiting, and I sort of forget about it. I'm like, oh, well, okay, I didn't win. That's all right. I'm glad I entered. That was a lot of fun. I get an email in my inbox on like the 2nd that says from like contest at Capcom saying, Dear Nathaniel, we're pleased to announce that your challenge stage has been chosen for inclusion in the 3DS version of the Mega Man Legacy Collection. Well, yes!
Yay!
And so I'm hoping that the vision that I have for it gets translated well, because I did throw in one monkey wrench. There is one thing that technically, if I filled out the form correctly, should work, and it will be something nobody has ever had to do in a Mega Man game, but it's still possible, and that would be very exciting. Even if that doesn't work out, it should still be a fun challenge mode. Anyways, that is my exciting news. Now I am extra happy that I own a new 3DS. I'm slightly less happy that I'm going to need to go out and buy another copy of the Mega Man Legacy Collection, thus upping my total of the first 6 NES games to like 6 different varieties of how I own them.
Well, and all of your friends and family are going to have to go buy a copy of the game too, so that they can see the level that you designed.
See, this was a sneaky marketing ploy on Capcom's part, because part of me is like, oh yeah, reach out to the fans, get a chance to participate. But really, this is guaranteed you've got 10 more people buying your game and all of their family members.
I still think you should have submitted a level that was just 10 instances of Charge Man back to back.
I think the perfect level would be just a level comprised just of those transition screens where there's no enemies, and the whole point is just to make it so that Mega Man comes out like of a certain section of the screen, where you come in at the top and then you go around a curve and then you come out the bottom right because they wanted you in the bottom right for the next bit. Just an entire section of that
challenge surprise you all of a sudden.
It's the part of the level of Gemini Man where you're falling, and the part of Flash Man where you're falling.
You do that too, yeah. Part of Mega Man 2 where you're falling, the castle stage.
Or
So
just the boss hallways, just an entire stage, just go through all the boss hallways.
What I'm also excited about is, in order for them to have accepted my level, they needed to watch the videos to find out what the timestamps were and what stages I was talking about. So I can guarantee you that at least one person who works for Capcom has watched my Mega Man videos, and maybe they'll take some of their, the game design advice and, say, oh, hey, this guy likes Mega Man. Maybe we should hire him. Like pipe dream way off there, right?
Well, if nothing else, you probably made 8 cents off of the video ads.
No, I don't actually have video ads on mine.
Oh, you missed out on the whole 8 cents.
8 million more Capcom employees watching your videos, and you could have bought an entire new 3DS.
Is that the next incarnation of the 3DS?
The new
3DS?
But the first new is spelled NU.
Oh.
Or just GNU.
But I am very excited, and I'm every once in a while I'll poke fun at Capcom for something, but I am actually grateful that they are following through with what I see to be reaching out and paying more attention to their fans and trying to rebuild their reputation, because over the last several years, there's been a lot of negative feelings and hostility toward Capcom from Mega Man fans, at least, for feeling totally abandoned. And I feel like now they're really starting to pick things up and starting to look again at the fan community and saying, you know what, we do care. Please don't think that we don't care. And I'm hoping that the fan community is gradually warming up to that too. So I'm excited about this and where Mega Man and Capcom are going now. So I will say that. Thumbs up.
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity for them too, especially because all the hype that was generated by Mighty Number 9 that's kind of dissipating now as things get weird with that. So they kind of if they're gonna save it, this is the time to do it. Like, people are wanting their Mega Man, and I'm being diplomatic as I can, because again, this is only stuff that I've heard and I haven't really been following it that closely, but there are certain people who aren't getting the hype that they expected, I suppose, would be a good way to put it.
Well, as I'm also finding as I'm live streaming, so I started up a new YouTube channel, Flashman85 Live, a little bit of shameless self-promotion. And I've been doing live streaming on my Twitch channel, Flashman85, of Mega Man fan games. And I will accept any fan game that people throw at me. And what I've been finding as I've been live streaming these fan games is that you really don't know just how good a job Capcom has done with the Mega Man series until you've started playing some of the other fan games. Because there are people who have really great ideas and have no idea how to execute them. People who have great game design instincts, but their graphics or their music are awful, and just because it's usually like a one-person project or a very small group of people, you need to be multi-talented, and you need to not only just do stuff at all, you need to do it well for it to even begin to approach the level of quality that even the more mediocre Mega Man games reach. So I'm finding it's really, really tough for the fan community to fill in for the official company.
Is there a fan game that you found that has, I guess, sticking with like just the classic series, like, is there a fan game you found that surpassed, like, if like you had a list of your favorite Mega Man games that included fan games, would there be a fan game that was above an official Mega Man game?
Oh, absolutely. The thing you said, classic series, but really that's the only series that anybody's made any kind of fan games off of. I know of one Mega Man X, and I don't even think it's strictly Mega Man X. I think there's just Mega Man X and other stuff that is in progress right now, I believe. But anyways, of the ones that I've played, I would actually recommend. So we did the one Mega Man Christmas Carol game on the live stream for the
Oh yeah, that one's fun.
That was fun, and I like the second one as well. That's a little bit of a bigger game, and so the Christmas Carol ones are fun, and those feel very Mega Man-ish. And Rock Force, which I mentioned earlier, is great because it completely understands what makes Mega Man fun, that it's this challenge of this is difficult, this looks impossible, but if I practice it, I'll get better, and there's a couple different ways that I can approach this. So it's problem solving, and it's not just do this absolutely perfect every time, that there's a little wiggle room, some opportunity to experiment with things, and lots of replay value. The graphics are good, the music's fine, and you can play as Robot Masters from previous games, which is really exciting. It's fun to run around on land as Dive Man or chuck around bombs as Bomb Man. So there's some really fun stuff that you can do. I'm not as sold on the story, and I really don't care for the final boss, and the final stage is too long. It kind of takes that usual fan game route of, oh, well, difficult just means super, super long stage, right? So it's got a couple of drawbacks. For the most part, I really like it. It's a very well done fan game that's easily on par with a lot of the a lot of the official games. And then one that's currently still in beta, Mega Man 2.5D, is really wonderful. And I enjoyed that one as well, what I've played of it. And that one's still in progress. There's like 2 more stages, and I'm assuming Fortress stages to go. So, anyhow, yes, I have played games that are on par with the good ones.
So, what's your favorite item/concept that was popularized by a video game, like the ocarina in Legend of Zelda or Mega Man's blaster arm?
Those are like, you listed all the things that I could think of about.
Yeah, same.
Let's see, video game items.
Carts, Mario Kart.
Those I don't know if those were popularized by Mario.
Rings from Sonic.
You're really stretching it here, Jenny.
Because everyone knows the whole wedding ring tradition didn't start until, after Sonic.
That's true.
Okay, I got one for you. The Moai heads from Gradius.
Yeah.
We all know Easter Island, the giant stone heads with the mystery behind them, and in the Gradius Space Shooter series, they're enemies that shoot donuts at you.
Glowing donuts.
When I was a kid, I thought this was the coolest thing. Donut spewing Moai heads in space. It was awesome, and so ever since, I've had sort of a soft spot for them. And I actually have a few different varieties of Moai head somewhere. I've got a cushy one that I keep at my desk at the office, and I've got a small little half circle of them guarding the PlayStation 2 games on my shelf.
And a tie.
Yes, my wife bought me a Moai head tie, nice gray, stone looking. That's very cool. And then she also made one
I made a metalwork one for you.
Yep. So there's a couple of them floating around the house. Fortunately, not spitting donuts at me, which is what I want to buy.
I mean, but if they did spit donuts, you got like a lifetime supply of free donuts now.
Oh, free donuts. We may need to leave the podcast and go get donuts.
The ocarina is really the only thing I can think of.
Well, Tanuki. That's something that was in no one's vocabulary prior to Mario 3.
But is that an item that's become popularized?
Well,
I don't think that answers the question.
The Tanuki suit.
Well, it says item slash
How
now.
many Tanuki suits do you see? Because I don't see very many.
You should come to my neighborhood sometime.
It does say item/concept.
Okay, fair enough.
Although I think like maybe popularized is the
Now, are we talking about just as a general thing, like, hey, I think this is fun now, or are we talking about something that was implemented in one game and then started to work its way into several other games afterwards?
Yeah, probably more the latter, because I don't know about necessarily restricted to games, but I do feel like ocarina wasn't really a thing that most people were cognizant of before Legend of Zelda. It's ocarina time.
Thank you.
Next question.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I forgot that we're still going through Nolan's question. We got sidetracked on that a little bit.
What's the oldest game you've played in its original form that is not a re-release or part of a collection or on the Virtual Console?
Whatever was the first game released for the Atari 2600. Frogger, maybe?
Oh yeah, I have played Frogger. Because I was thinking Centipede. I think Frogger.
And I think I stood... there's a picture of me standing in front of a Pong machine that doesn't work. So I almost played Pong on the original hardware.
Well, yeah, I guess I've played Mega Man on an arcade thing, not Mega Man, Pac-Man. Now, actually, hold on, because see, the thing is that normally when you see Pac-Man in an arcade, it's like a Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man 2-in-1,
right?
Re-release. But I was at a bus station in Canada, and I want to say that it may have been maybe not an original release, but it was Pac-Man.
Yeah, if you're taking other arcade games into account, I've probably played some of the earlier ones somewhere along the line, like a Donkey Kong or a Pac-Man or something.
Oh, yeah,
I've played Pac-Man arcade stuff. I think that's probably as far back as it goes, though. I do have a list of the first year releases of Atari games if you want to.
Nah, don't worry about it.
Basic math, aka fun with numbers.
See, we didn't have a gaming system in the house growing up. We had computers because my dad worked for IBM. So we had a PC Junior, and we had all of King's Quest on 6 floppy disks that I had to get my brothers every time to come in and type the DOS commands because I didn't know how to do it. And we had things like Gertrude's Secret and Bert and Ernie's Bath Time and stuff like that. I played Scorched Earth on floppy disk. So most of these games were coming out when I was in the 4 years old to 6 years old range, because I know Scorched Earth came out when I was 6.
Well,
but I played all of them on PC on floppy disk.
Yeah, well, actually, if you're bringing up PC games, I've gone back to games that were on the Apple II, Zork, some of the earlier games for computers. So got those under my belt too. Anna, Stefano.
Really, the earliest thing I've played is probably original NES games, so it's not that exciting.
I think it's Clue for the SNES, because I actually got one for Christmas 2 years ago.
Wow.
And I bought a bunch of the games because my grandma bought the system. So I think Clue is the answer, and I really don't like that game for the SNES. So, whoops.
I'm just thinking back to MagFest. So I went to MagFest last January. There's a section at MagFest where everyone gets out, like sets up a bunch of old arcade games, and then on another side there's NES games. So I played Punch Out on a Play Choice 10. That was really fun. I also played Mega Man 2 on the NES. Which before I had only had Anniversary Collection and Wii Virtual Console versions. So, and I was very proud that I could still do the Heatman block puzzle challenge for a live audience. That was fun. Because we were, before with that group, we were like handing the controller around, and the person who did Heatman stage used the item too. And I was like, but if I would just do it and be all impressive. And then after we went and we started doing another round, and I went to Heatman first just so that I could
just stick it to them.
I wasn't gonna stick. I just wanted to show off, and I was very glad that I actually pulled it off, because I hadn't done it in a while. It's like, I know I can do this, but I haven't actually tried, and this is also not the way I usually do it. So I was a little nervous. I was slightly nervous. But I did it, and I was very proud of myself. I was also really surprised that lots of people were like, yeah, sorry, I'm usually better, but I usually play it on normal mode. I was like, really, all of you? All of you play it on normal mode? I mean, it's like, there were also the kind of people who were talking about how it was the best game. It's like, you've only played it on normal? Woodman dies in one hit on, there's just, I don't know. It's normal? Never tried hard. Never tried difficult mode, which is actually normal mode, and you've been playing easy mode.
Which didn't even exist in the original version.
So that was another thing I got to feel superior about. Which, is always great. It's always great when you can feel better than other people, right? That's the one goal in life that people are supposed to do, right? I think I got that
American
right.
Dream?
Yeah, something like that.
Here on GameHipster.com.
I really hope that people can read through my tone most of the time, because otherwise I must come off as a very terrible person.
I actually just remembered my uncle is 12 years younger than my dad, so he grew up in the 80s.
Does he work at Nintendo?
No, he doesn't. But when the first Legend of Zelda game came out, my dad actually went out and bought my uncle a gold, one of the gold cartridges for the Zelda games, and he still has it, so I actually got to play that when I was babysitting my cousins. And I also got an actual picture from my dad, and he sent it was a Zelda reference. I was like, oh my god, you're actually sending me video game references? What's going on? And then he proceeded to remind me that 20 years ago he played it, and I was like, yeah, that's cool.
So do we have more questions?
What one game out of all the games you've played has caused you the most stress?
Emotionally, all of Possible Boyfriend and the last Blackwell series game, because those ones had me freaking out like to no end.
I used to let myself, I'm talking about when I was like 9, that I would let myself get really like stressed out about like Dune 2. I was like, oh, the computer cheats. And like I would just sit there and play it like every day and get like really angry.
That's how I was with Animaniacs. I haven't played that game since.
So I think Morrowind, because I started a character, got to a point where I talked to the wrong person out of order, and realized that I had skipped 9 quests in a quest chain to get to the thing I wanted to get to, and I could no longer get that, which was becoming the leader of the Thieves Guild. So I started a new character, and then I realized that if I didn't exactly do the skills right, I didn't level up properly, and if I did things in the wrong order, I would shoot myself in the foot again. So now I've been looking up every single NPC and every single place I could go before I actually go there to make sure that I'm not going to mess up my game, which has basically made it so I don't play it anymore. Because it's just too stressful and I don't want to metagame that much. And Nathaniel's angry at me because he's like, just hit stuff. Just run through the game. Play it the first time, and then you can get it all the next time. I'm like, no, I must become the dual leader of the Thieves Guild and the Mage Guild on the first try. Second try at this point. My poor Khajiit is stuck in limbo forever.
Aww.
But it causes me stress in a game that's an open world exploration game when you can talk to millions of NPCs, but talking to them in the wrong order can mess up your game that badly. It's like, isn't the whole point of the game to explore and talk to people?
Yeah.
You can go anywhere and do anything as long as you do it all in the proper order.
Yeah,
so much for a sandbox.
That's just a bad game design right there.
Oh, you're just playing it wrong.
Hey, just because I don't want to be a naked Nord with asparagus on my head and a belt that unlocks doors.
By definition, if you have asparagus on your head, you're not naked anymore.
So I don't really have. The problem is that if a game starts like stressing me out, then I usually stop playing it, and that's usually the why I stopped playing it. There's Mega Man 8, which I pretty much gave up as soon as the first castle stage was. I don't care. This is a spoiler. It was another sled level. There wasn't even snow. Why you're not even gonna make that commitment? You'd have rocket sled. The worst part.
Well, because they wanted to use the delightful jump, slide voice clips again.
And to get their money's worth from that voice actor. So that was one. So it's kind of hard to remember. I mean, there are other games that I've quit, like Sticker Star, but that wasn't stress. That was more boredom. I mean, Smash Brothers causes me a lot of stress when I think I'm going to lose. And I'm like, I must win. And then I resort to Mega Man's cheap tactics that no one likes, and then everyone hates me.
I hate Mega Man in Smash.
Mega Man is his best character.
I hate Mega Man in Smash.
Mega Man is the best.
So much.
You can throw things at people. You can shoot things at people.
No, I don't play Mega Man that often, and I don't want to.
And you can, if someone's above you, you can air shooter them, and they go flying up off the screen. And they're like, what happened? And it's
you
like
can use top spin and have it actually be useful.
Top spin is actually very useful and annoying in Smash Brothers.
We should fight.
1v1 me. Smash. Mega Man.
Zero Suit Samus is going to kick your butt.
I actually haven't fought Zero Suit Samus with Mega Man a whole bunch, so I might be at a little bit of a disadvantage there.
You won't be. I'm not that big. But yeah, I don't get angry, stressed with games.
You get
because
even.
Yes, I don't play many, I don't know, what games do I play?
You said
Some
Blackwell
types of videos.
something or other, didn't you?
The Blackwell Epiphany is point-and-click adventures and visual novels I've been playing a lot lately. So it's more just me getting worked up about everything that's happening and yelling about it on Twitter. So that's literally all I do.
I own them. I'll show them to you at some point.
I'll walk through the room.
So good.
But one of the games that really stressed me out is just really any Mario Kart game ever. It's like, oh yeah, this is great, and no, I'm gonna win. Blue shell, 3 lightning bolts.
Have you seen that one? Oh, hold on. Let's see if I can. It's a Mario Kart Wii GIF. Hold on. You keep talking. I have to go find it.
See, I always end up going the wrong direction on the track somehow and then falling off, and it's not good. Even if it's not a track you can fall off of, I somehow managed to find my way off of it and somewhere in the wilderness.
Because you're like driving, and then all of a sudden everything explodes around you, and then you're the wrong way, and then someone hits you and sends you off the edge, and you're like, that's not even fair. And now I'm in last place, where you get all the good items, unless you're the player. Then you get, like, the banana peels. You can drop them behind you and just, I don't know, spite the people in first place who are about to lap you.
Yeah, I don't play racing games like that. I'm just horrible at them. We were playing the Micro Machines racing game.
Oh, for the NES?
That was
NES or N64?
I don't know, the one Jeffrey brought over?
Well, he brought over one for NES and N64.
So when we were driving around on tabletops and...
That's both.
But I felt like you're going around the track, but the controls are from the view of the car, so you have to constantly switch which direction is left or right or up or down. And I always ended up like in a salad here because all the levels, because you're Micro Machines, you're playing on like a dinner table or like on a student's desk, and it's not a real level. It's like suddenly I'm in the water glass and I don't know how I got here.
I'm just thinking of I don't even know what the game is really called. Something Pro-Am?
RC Pro-Am?
Yeah.
For the NES, because like didn't that have the issue where like you
that one's got the same kind of movement physics. I played that for a while, borrowed that from my aunt for a little while, and yeah, same kind of deal there. Although that one, once you get it down, there's really not much to the game.
Are you ready for the next part?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have to make a ridiculous final question. I have to. That's my thing. Who is the most pointless main character player you have ever encountered? Dang it, that was actually kind of a reasonable question. And now I've made a fool out of myself because every single word of this is being read. Wait, did you hear that? I have to go iron my way. I'll go, bye.
Rufus from Deponia.
I was literally just about to say that.
Nothing and should just not exist.
I was literally just about to say that. Oh my god. There are so many expletives I could use right now to describe him. I'm not going to because last time I said a bad word, I was bleeped. But yeah, he's the worst.
So this will have happened by the time this podcast posts, but I am planning to start a live streaming series of me blindly playing through the first Deponia game in front of a live studio audience. So the only thing that I have heard about this game is that it's an adventure game and the main character is awful. That's all I know. That's all I care to know.
That's all I know too.
The worst parts of Leisure Suit Larry combined with the worst parts of Roger from Space Quest with just extra awfulness peppered in.
He's just the worst type of human being.
Yes, he has zero redeeming qualities. Actually, maybe his hair. His hair is decent. And his trench coat's not so... But aside from looking like a brown coat, there is nothing redeeming about that character.
He's awful. It was really hard for my boyfriend to get through the first game because he was just like, I just can't stand him at all. I was like, please just finish the game. He's like, no. He finished it and he's on the third game now, but he was very adamant against finishing it at first.
So wait, how was the question worded? Anyone who knows?
Wait, sorry, what?
How was the question worded again?
Sorry, I was busy looking at whatever this image is that Joe sent.
The Mario Kart.
Joe, stop passing notes during class.
I said that I was going to look for this and post it in the chat, so...
Would you like to share with the rest of the class?
I did. I shared it with everyone. It's right here in the chat. You can watch this person be utterly destroyed in Mario Kart.
Didn't share with our listeners.
I'll post it in the show notes.
Well, maybe I'll forget to put it in the YouTube video when I post it to YouTube. So how is the question worded again?
Who is the most pointless main player character you have ever encountered?
I'm trying to figure out how to interpret that. So, like, pointless as in has no bearing on the story?
No Lynch Rodinami.
I'm looking for help here.
I would go with like a character where like the story just sort of happens and it's like your actions don't really end up doing anything.
Or are we talking about something like an RPG where you've got multiple main characters and so somebody who's like the Umaro of the group? Maybe they're useful in battle somehow, but...
You just kind of get them and, you got a Yeti. Cool. Speaking of Final Fantasy, I mean, you could always go with Vaughn from Final Fantasy XII. He's just kind of there. Apparently, he wasn't even supposed to be in the game, and they added him in because they needed a more traditional protagonist. So, I guess that explains why he just is there.
The pizza delivery sim in Sims 3 because he never shows up when I call.
Well, is he really like a main character?
He is if you order pizza.
He has his own the pizza ordering subquest.
Yeah, it's Sims 3. You don't do much. You live your life through a sim, and if I order pizza, I don't get it, and it makes me sad. It breaks my realism.
Because, pizza deliveries always get there. Every time.
Yeah, usually when I order pizza.
This is a really hard question because, like, any main character that wasn't, like, is most unnecessary is probably one that you're not going to even remember was there in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, for a long time, always goes back to Mega Man. But for a long time, Roll in the Mega Man games really didn't serve any purpose except to complete the pun of rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, like, her only function until Mega Man 8. Or Mega Man 7, she had some lines. But she didn't run the shop in 7. Otto ran the shop.
Right.
She started running the shop in 8. But before that, she was really just... She didn't do anything.
I don't even think she was in some of the games.
Right.
She was probably mentioned in the booklets.
Not necessarily.
Not in all the booklets, even?
No.
See, she was in the first game, because she's at the end. She might not be... She's in 4. She's at the end of 4.
In the end.
Yeah. All of anything before 7 is at the end, I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's basically it. You got them.
Yeah. That's the only two. Those are the only two.
She is in 10, but that is after 7, so.
Yeah.
Well,
on the one hand, she wasn't the damsel in distress. On the other hand, by not being the damsel in distress, she was nothing. Literally, she was nothing.
It was like, hey, there's also a girl there. I mean, I think in the end of Mega Man 1, it's just, you're home and there's Dr. Light and a girl.
A Dr. Light and not Dr. Light.
And I think that's the fate of a lot of female characters in video games, that they're kind of there just as the token female character. I mean, even Crystallis, Messia doesn't do much, or Messiah, or however you want to pronounce her name.
Mensa.
Mersa. She doesn't do very much. And Zelda didn't do very much initially. She didn't get cool until later games. The series named after her, but Link does everything.
She's
But
not even
also-
in some of the games.
Also bear in mind that the characters that we're talking about here were introduced in an era where story and characters really weren't, for the most part, a big thing. It was all about the gameplay, and any kind of story or character development you got at all was a nicety. And so to expect any secondary character, especially if it's the case of Zelda, who's, I'm kidnapped and you don't see me until the end of the game, I think it's understandable.
As Princess Peach, too.
Well, yeah,
She
there's
doesn't
that
do
too.
very much.
She got her own game for the DS, so...
Where she cries.
What was that? That was the old post from Christian Borg.
Yeah.
And it's one of the top articles. Hold on, let me see if I can.
Yeah, I'm a whirlwind of emotions or something.
Yeah.
It's clearly, what is it? Hold on, let me see if I could give a direct quote. Video games, the reality.
Yeah.
I think is it in this first one or is it in the next one? I think it might be in the second one. Okay. She's a woman, so obviously she's just a manic whirlwind of emotions. And then the next part is not safe for work. But I can.
So it was written by Christian.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones of that is the one that that he did for Mega Man 5, where it's just titled Mega Man 4.
Yeah.
Listeners, read some old GameCola stuff. It's good.
Mm-hmm. I can include this one in the show notes too. We'll do some cross-site promotion.
We should probably link to our Crystallis End Day celebration for this year, because we've been subtly quoting it throughout the podcast.
I guess we might want to be a little nervous that people might not understand our jokes. Our XXX darker than black XXS humor.
Well, and then you can go a different way with the question, because there are games like the Castlevania game you were playing, where you play through as the traditional guy at first, but then he becomes utterly redundant once you rescue the one female character.
Well, yeah, we're talking about Rondo of Blood here.
Where he becomes pointless once you realize that the little girl is so much better to play as.
Because you can throw cats at people.
But she's more effective. She's faster. She has better attacks. Like, there's no reason to play as him anymore.
Well, technically, if I recall, Richter's main attack with the whip is stronger than her attack with the birds, I think.
Yeah, but
maybe,
she can summon a dragon and a tiger and house cats.
He can launch crosses across the screen and do other kinds of cool stuff. So they both have good points, but overall, she's better.
Stronger.
Plus, she's a little girl in a game where you fight like zombies and stuff, and she kills them by throwing cats at them. I mean,
but
it's like, yeah, you can be generic protagonist or little girl who throws cats.
No comparison.
And I guess arguably, if you want to get into any kind of game that has a storyline where somebody else is calling the shots. So, for example, without trying to spoil anything, in Mass Effect 2, Commander Shepard is a little pointless as a main character, because a lot of the stuff that happens in that game would probably happen without you.
Yeah, stuff happens to her, not because
or
of
him,
her.
depending. Well, but yes, yeah, it's a lot of happening to your character. Shepard's canonically female for me, but yeah, a lot of stuff that happens to your character, but not necessarily because of the actions, which is one thing about Mass Effect as a whole that drove me bonkers, is that on a micro scale, your actions matter. The crew members around you, whether they live or die, whether you romance them, how they feel about you, that you can impact. But the whole impact the direction of the entire galaxy is bunk. That really doesn't happen. You end up exactly where you would, regardless of what choices you make earlier on.
So basically, instead of multiple endings, it has one ending and then just like 80,000 different ways to get there.
Basically. Although, well, interestingly enough, the final choice that you have of the game, I would argue, is the first and only time you actually make a lasting impact on your world. And ironically, that's the one that everybody gets up in arms about, because everything that you decided up to that point doesn't matter.
Wait, which Matt is that, 2 or 3?
3. The very end of the series.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I thought you were still talking about 2. I was like, is 2 the one?
Well,
did everyone get upset about 2 as well?
And if you talk to the conspiracy theorists, then the ending of Mass Effect 3 really doesn't matter at all, because it's all like a hallucination.
Or you are being indoctrinated, or whatever it's called.
Right.
They're getting Mass Effect 2 and Mario 2 mixed up.
Yeah. Oh, that was the dream, right?
Mario 2 had the least reason for it to all be a dream.
Well, from an in-context perspective, yeah, but from a realistic game design perspective, they could very well appropriate someone else's game and just leave it as it was and call it Mario.
And one thing that everyone complains that Mario 2 was a dream, that's a stupid plot twist, but I'm pretty sure if you watch the opening cutscene, it tells you it's a dream. And it also says so in the manual, and yet everyone's like, oh, it was just a dream, that's the stupidest plot twist. It's not a plot twist.
Although what I find interesting is that you've got characters from Mario 2 making their way into the main Mario world.
Yeah.
Well, because he dreamed about actual things that existed.
Oh, I guess that's fair, yeah.
No one ever said Mario was creative. That's like a double zinger. It works on multiple levels. Even though I actually like most recent Mario games. So it's only works on multiple levels if you hold an opinion different to my own.
So if we've exhausted No Lynch's questions, there's always the good old one that we typically, or at least on certain podcasts, have closed with, as we're nearing the 2-hour mark before editing, is the "What games are we playing now?" question.
Do I play games?
Guys, it's just like old times.
Actually, okay. I have been playing after we beat Phoenix Wright. I have been playing Chrono Trigger.
He'd sue you for assault and battery if you beat him.
Well, no, he's a defense lawyer.
Well, he'd sue himself and then defend himself against it. I don't know how that works, but he'd be in trouble at any rate.
Well, he didn't sue the guy in the, I forget his name, Richard Wellington. Yeah. He didn't sue him. I mean, he did get him put to jail for murder.
He'd just get Apollo Justice to. Oh no, he's a defense lawyer too, so that doesn't matter. Anyways, moving on. You played a video game. We're so proud.
I know.
Yay!
Is that the end of the story?
I played a video game once. The end.
I played a video game once. It was terrible. The end.
Yeah. Now I run a site about them.
It was a slippery slope.
I've been playing several games.
Yay!
I didn't know if Jetty was done with his story. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was.
Okay, sorry. I've been playing my actual Steam list. The game I just reviewed, Ephemerid. I've been playing that a lot because school is awful and stressful, and that game is like calm and nice. And what else have I been playing? I don't know. A game named Melody's Escape, and it's like a rhythm game, but it uses your own music. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. I also bought Happy Home Designer because I don't know why I spent money on it. I love it. It's so much fun.
That's the Animal Crossing game, right?
Yes, it's so cute and it's fun, but I should have waited for Christmas. But at the same time, I'm okay with this. And I also bought the game Style Savvy for Nintendo 3DS because I liked the first game on the DS and it's addicting.
What do you do in Style Savvy?
You basically run a boutique and you help people find outfits based on their preferences. It's an addiction and it's awful.
Awful or great?
I think I've used both of those words for every game I've played lately at the same time. So both.
So like I said earlier, I finished Shovel Knight and Plague Knight, or Plague of Shadows rather, which I didn't know was like free DLC. Like I thought that was like an extra sort of game mode that you could buy for like, I don't know, $5 or something. That's what I was expecting. But then, like, I beat Shovel Knight, and it was like, at the end of credits, it was like, yeah, that was really cool. I'm glad I played the game. It's like, you unlocked Plague of Shadows DLC. I was like, there's this entire new game now to play. So that was really cool. It was like, Plague of Shadows is sort of more, like, Shovel Knight's a good game, but the Plague of Shadows version of it was sort of more my play style. Because, like, it's sort of, because with Shovel Knight, you get, like, these relics. And so, like, you have a sort of mana counter or magic counter, and the different relics to do different. So there's, like, one thing that you throw in an arc, and then it's like an axe that goes in an arc, or, like, a fireball that you shoot straight. And those were okay, but, like, because you only had one bar with them, you didn't feel that encouraged to mess around with them because it was really easy to quickly run out of magic. So I didn't end up using them a lot. But with Plague Knight, first of all, Plague Knight's stuff with relics, or the relics equivalent, is on a recharge thing. So you can use them however many times you want. You just have to
take a break.
Yeah, you just can't use them like a lot in a row. But then also the main way you attack is by throwing these exploding potions. And throughout the game, you can buy these upgrades. Well, they're not even necessarily upgrades, because what you do is like it can tweak it. So you buy like there's casing, which changes how you throw the bomb. So, like, the regular one, you throw it down. There's, like, a lob casing where it goes up. There's a float casing where it's sort of like Danger Wrap from Mega Man 7, where it's, like, in a little bubble and it floats up. There's, like, a shield type one. There's one where you, like, just set it on the ground where you're standing. And then there's, like, powder, which explains how it explodes. So some things, like, when there's just a regular one where it just explodes right there. There's another one where like little fire things come out and trace like the ground and walls. There's one where it makes like you can only throw one of them at a time, but it makes a big explosion. There's one where like if you throw 3 of them and they all land in the same place, it makes a really, really big explosion.
Does
and then
one of them make julienne fries?
No.
Oh.
One of them makes fire pillars that might look like French fries. That's as close as I can get.
Will not break. Will not break. It broke.
It broke.
And then there's also, what's the last thing? Oh, there's a fuse, which is like how long it takes to explode, or like, so it could last a long time, or you could like do it so that it goes when you press the explode button again. When you press like the attack button again, that's when it explodes. Or you can set it to explode in different circumstances. But those are all like, you can tweak your main attack in so many ways. And it's really easy to just do it on the fly. So like, it's really like, it's about, okay, what bomb setup do I need for, because, you know, it's Shovel Knight's like Mega Man, and that's sort of like, it's a screen by screen sort of challenge thing. So it's like, okay, for this screen, what bomb setup is the best? For this screen, what bomb setup is the best? And so it was really cool to go through it like that. And it was a lot of fun. And it was really, it's like micromanaging your play style, which for me personally, I enjoyed. And I think that's good that it's sort of like it's not just a different character, but it's also like sort of gets to a different kind of play style that people might want. And then the other thing I've been playing is Mario 3 on the Game Boy, which I think is, it's technically Super Mario Advance 4. So it's like the, what's it called? The All-Star version.
Okay.
So with updated graphics and sound and everything. I've been playing that in preparation for getting Mario Maker this Christmas. I want to learn level tactics and stuff.
Well, Mario 3 is a great place to learn it from.
Mm-hmm. So right now I'm on the Fortress of World 8. So almost done. It's the puzzle one. I was playing it just before the podcast started. It's one of the puzzle fortresses, and it's like, I've beaten this before, but I still don't remember how to do it. It's like you got to do something weird with P switches, and there's like 50 million doors, and it's like, which door do you need to get to? But I'm close to the end. The only issue with Mario 3 is that there are like, sometimes if you have the Tanuki suit, you can just like break a level. It's like, I'm just not gonna play this level. And if you have the P-wing,
Even more so.
Yeah, P-wing, you can skip like any auto-scrolling level that isn't a water one. You can pretty much skip with the P-wing. You can skip lots of levels with P-wings.
But I think that's kind of the point, though, is that they recognize not every level is going to be fun to people or easy enough, even after lots of practice. Mm-hmm. So they throw in they throw in the cloud to skip levels altogether. They throw in the P-wing to skip levels, but technically beat them, so you don't need to risk going back before the level like you do with the cloud if you die in the subsequent level.
Right.
And they give you the warp whistle to just skip like half the game.
Well, if you know the secret. But yeah, that's been fun. But the momentum, Mario 3 is back when the momentum was a little bit harder. Like, I mean, because it's weird because, you in real physics, you can't control your trajectory when you jump. So you would think that something closer to that would feel more normal. But like, Mario's sort of like slow down, and like it just feels when you're in it doesn't make sense because it's closer to how it would actually be, but Mario, like, compared to like the newer Mario games, Mario just feels a lot more heavy in the air. I don't know how to explain it, but it's
you mean
it's just not something I'm as used to. So it feels like imprecise, even though I think it's just a control style that I'm not used to.
It is very floaty.
Because he takes a lot longer to stop. A lot of the time. Like, a lot of the time I'll find myself, instead of stopping, I just try to find something to run into if I need to slow down.
Hopefully not an enemy.
Well.
Beggars can't be choosers.
Live and learn. But yeah, that's pretty much me there in the game playing department.
I've actually been playing through a lot of games, so I'm going to try to blow through this pretty quickly. So I started Paper Dungeons, which is good in concept, but very, very, very glitchy in execution and doesn't render properly all the time. So that one is a slog to get through. I started Sacred Gold, which is an older PC RPG, Diablo-esque style game that I loved at first. Interesting characters, interesting world building, interesting quests, but the enemies respawn at such a quick rate that it is like slogging through 10 million enemies to get from one end of town to the other, or to get from one quest to the next. And you always respawn in the most inconvenient spot, like 5 towns back. So not the best design there either. I played through Morphopolis, which is a non-verbal point-and-click adventure that is hand-drawn art in a flora and bugs setting, similar to Botanicula in its aesthetic, but it's really fun, but a short game, and the controls are really sluggish. I played through Memoria, which is part of the Dark Eye series, which I actually hadn't played any of the other Dark Eye games, but this one is very good about filling you in on the background details. Point-and-click adventure, beautiful art done by Daedalus, the same people who do Deponia. Daedalic? Yes, Daedalic. But
wait, could you repeat that game that you just said? Sorry.
Memoria. It's part of the Dark Eye series.
Okay.
I think the first one was Dark Eye Chains of Satinov, and this one is called Memoria. And this one, great puzzles, great art, but the main characters are a little bit annoying. The only character I found compelling was the Enchanted Staff, who reminded me a little bit of Murray from the Monkey Island games, so I liked him. I also recently played through Cairo, which is a Myst-style exploration game with logic puzzles, also a lot of non-verbal puzzle solving, and beautiful, beautiful, expansive world graphics, but very minimalist style, so just the things that they could do just with rectangles and blocks, but building this gigantic city out of them was... The atmosphere they were able to create with such minimalism just was so impressive. And so I absolutely loved that game. And what else? Oh, Nascence E, I started, which was advertised as an exploration game with jumping puzzles, but it's actually a jumping puzzle game with no light. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to actually make it through that game. I hear tell that there is exploration later on, but I can't get to it because I'm stuck in the basement. So we'll see. And I started Robin's Quest. Well, I started and finished that one, which is a hidden object game with a female Robin Hood. And it's childish and silly, but it was a fun afternoon to spend. And I also just started Magna Carta Tears of Blood, which is a PS2 RPG with... the most complex combat system I have ever seen in a game. To attack a cactus, to just poke a cactus, you need to be a stronger leader than the cactus, master the mystical trinity energy meter, maintain a keen resource control and 8 different types of chi, and know what type of chi the environment is producing and what type of chi your attack is using and what types of chi your other party members need, and balance that appropriately, and be able to switch back and forth between different combat modes and stealth modes and menus while within combat. And then actually attacking is a 3-button rhythm game to just attack. If you don't do the rhythm game perfectly, you don't hit. And that's your basic, normal, everyday attack. So this is going to be a game.
Wow. I don't know if I can be a stronger leader than a cactus. Cactuses are natural leaders.
And in order to build up your leadership, you need to give gifts to your party members and talk to your members and give them the right answers. But if you give them too much of one gift, then they get sick of it. So you need to find something else that they like.
You taking notes, Jetty?
I don't know about this hour, and 45 minutes of it was nothing but cutscenes and info dumps about what you needed to do. And the other 15 minutes was 10 minutes of attacking cacti and 5 minutes of getting the butt kicked.
Oh my goodness.
Trying to attack cacti.
Yeah.
This sounds amazing.
So the funniest part of this was I was playing through. So one of the games that I've been playing recently, I've played through Leisure Suit Larry: Love for Sale, and in order to get, I went back for 100% completion, get the maximum point score. And there's one where you have to sit there and listen to the comedian tell all of his jokes. He's got like half an hour of jokes, so I just turned off the sound, let Larry stand there listening to the comedian, and went over and sat on the couch watching my wife play this game. And I'm sitting there, and I'd seen the art style, and I saw like a flashback to a cutscene when one of the characters is a little kid. And these characters, maybe the art style, something looked vaguely familiar to me. So I'm sitting down there, and I'm watching, and I'm thinking it's Kingdom Hearts that she's playing. And I'm really waiting for the Disney characters and Final Fantasy characters to start showing up. And I'm there just watching her do her thing for a good half hour. And then I start talking about this magical, mystical Magna Carta. Like, it's a scrap of paper, you guys. It's not so magical. And then they're talking about this. I'm like, this game, they're just making stuff up. When is Donald going to come in and just make this even more ridiculous? And then she shuts off the game and reaches for the case. And I'm like, well, don't put it in that case. We have the Kingdom Hearts case over there. And she says, we don't own Kingdom Hearts. So, and this is the reason why we work so well as a couple, because in the amount of time that it took her to explain everything that she's been playing, I might have told you about one of my games. So we balance.
I was trying to keep it quick because I've been playing so many games.
So I'll keep mine short. As mentioned, Leisure Suit Larry 7, which is arguably the best game in the series. So classic Sierra point-and-click adventure games with, of course, an off-color sense of humor and not safe for children, but still quality gameplay and a very well-built game.
Can you call a horn dog searching for mold to make beaver cheese a quality game? You spend half the game searching for mold. Really?
I've done worse things for the good of the order. So that was actually a very well put together game. And according to my backloggery, I'm playing Dragon Age Origins, though you wouldn't know it. I think it's been 3 months since the last time I picked that up, which is funny because I was just getting to the part where I was starting to get engaged again. So it's a BioWare game, so all of the interacting with your party members and talking and dialogue trees everywhere, and some RPG fighting here and there. But there was more of a tactical focus, and the first time I played the game, I built my character thinking that I would have the simplest character possible. And I might have talked about this on a previous podcast, so I'll keep it short. But I picked the fighter, because the fighter is the simplest character possible. You just go up and pop things, right? No. Apparently, it's all, well, if you use this combat mode, you get a penalty to defense, but you increase your damage. I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. I just want to bop stuff. So, of all things, I chose to be a wizard or a sorcerer or whatever the magic user is. And that's just, I click a button. Yeah, that one. I click a button and things die. That's really all I want. I can get into the nuances later. So I'm finally restarting that game, and now I'm going a different direction than I did before, and now I'm starting to get engaged. But for whatever reason, something about the presentation of the game just wasn't grabbing me as much as some of the other RPGs I've played. So that one I'm technically playing and would like to get back to at some point. As mentioned, I'm going to be starting Deponia shortly, and I am still playing Mega Man Rock Force because I'm stuck. I don't remember the last time I was stuck on the final stage of a Mega Man game. It's been forever, because normally, sit down, give me an afternoon, a day or two, a couple days tops, and I'll beat it. It's been a couple weeks where I keep plugging away. I'm like, I don't have enough lives to get through this. So that's a new experience. Well, it's an old experience that I haven't had in a long time. But otherwise, we've been playing Lego Harry Potter together, years 1 through 4 on the Wii, and it's terrifyingly glitchy. I actually read that it is possible to destroy your save game by exiting a level at the wrong time. Like anywhere, you can just destroy your save game. So that's a little frightening. And there have been a couple of times where we're pretty sure that we broke the game, but actually there was something hidden, small, tiny somewhere that we just didn't interact with in quite the right way. And I don't know, we've been having some technical issues with it, but those aside, it's been really fun. It's been reminding us why we like the Lego games, because we played Lego Indiana Jones 1 and 2, and we hated those.
That almost ended our marriage. Seriously.
Just because the camera was so zoomed out with 2 people playing that if you hadn't already played in single-player mode where you could see things up close and had any idea what you're doing, it was just completely confusing. And there were a lot of challenges that were like, I can do this, but I don't want to.
Also, I remember...
And the vehicles were completely uncontrollable. Just so many problems. So many problems that we had.
And Lego Batman was just kind of meh. The only real reason to play Lego Batman is to get to play as the villains.
So we like the concept of the Lego games, but it's been a long time since we played Lego Star Wars 1 and 2, which we loved, despite their problems, but they were still generally fun. And so it's so nice to go back to a game that we can play as a couple that we're just having fun with.
We launched carrots into space and drove a pumpkin. It was the best thing ever. Our standards are very, very low.
So that's about it from me.
Have you all fallen asleep now?
I'm still here.
I'm alive. I can play video
Anyone else?
We're talking.
I know. We all were. Anyone else playing games?
I've been playing Super Mario Maker. Yeah, I've made a couple levels, played more levels than I've made. My levels tend to be along the lines of, oh my goodness, I can stack all the Goombas on top of each other. And then in fact, I have one level where, like, I start Mario out, like, a star right above him, and then have, like, 3 columns of Goombas. So he just stands there, all the Goombas fall on him and die, and I'm just like, this is hilarious. And then I tried to turn the second half of that into, like, an invisible block maze. All the Goombas fall on your head and die, and now you have to go through this invisible block maze. And then I started, like, hiding stuff in the blocks that you had to hit in order to make the floor so you can climb up another level. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just being mean at this point.
I was about to say, you're mean.
Is that using that glitch trick where, like, you can, like, put a cloud on a piece of, like, scaffolding and then delete the cloud, but then, like, put an invisible block and then then it's basically just invisible? Or is that just making invisible blocks that you can hit?
I don't know. I haven't really experimented with stuff. I've mainly been like, okay, let's make a Mario level. I have one level where I basically put, like, a giant line of, like, flying Goombas and turtles, and then you just have to jump on them over a bottomless pit. And then I think I put, like, Lakidus dropping stuff at you. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun, but none of the levels I've made I think are actually Mario levels. It's more like, I made a giant pyramid of turtles. And it flies. Do something with this, I guess. Here you go. Here's the level. It's a giant flying pyramid of turtles. I've noticed playing, like, the uploaded levels, most of the levels are along the lines of my things, like, oh, look what I can do, or the Kaizo Mario-esque stuff, like, look how insanely difficult this is, ha 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 ha. You will never beat this.
Or auto-scrollers.
Oh, those are fun. I don't even know how those became a thing, but there's quite a bit of them, and it's just like, you start, and then just all this stuff happens, and Mario just gets, like, bounced around, lands on platforms that scroll, and then it's very cool to see. I mean, it's not fun to play because you're not actually playing, you're just standing there, but it's still really cool to see how they, like, manipulated everything to make sure. Like, there's one where they get a spring to knock you onto these cannons, and then they all shoot the cannonballs, and then you just, since it's beneath you, you automatically jump off it onto the next one, and then it, like, walks you across and, like, up. It's really cool. But yeah, I've been playing Mario Maker.
It's on my wish list. If anybody's been following along on the GameCola YouTube channel, gc.net, we're doing a playthrough. It's Ryan Mather and Matt Jonas and Diana Gray as an onlooker who refuses to play, and me, the evil person who created all of this, the monster, doing a playthrough of a ROM hack that I started back in 2002 and have been poking at over the years of Super Mario World that I call Super Impossible Mario World. So we've been seeing some of those, proto Mario Maker game design ideas of things that you can do with just Super Mario World. So that's there for your entertainment if you need your fix as well.
Yeah, I'm afraid to get him the Super Mario Maker because I think that he would just curl up into a hole and never come out and just be like, I must make a new level. You would get way too into it.
What if they made, like, one of those for Mega Man?
You would never see me again.
See, one of my aspirations is to eventually make a Mega Man fan game. I just haven't sat down to figure out how to do it, but should I ever do that, that is the only thing that I will work on until it's done.
Well, I mean, Capcom's seen your resume, basically, so, I
mean...
True, they have.
Was that everyone? Are we ready to wrap up? We've been going for a while. Yeah. I think this is definitely one of those where I do not know how much usable material there is here.
All of it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, we thank you for listening to this edition of the GameCola Podcast, or Spookcast, I suppose. Is that what I said at the beginning? I don't even know. Like, all pretense has been dropped. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this, you can check out some of our other stuff. Like, we have a YouTube channel.
Do we?
Yes, I believe the username is gc.net, the letter G, the letter C, the word dot, and the word net. And if you're listening to this podcast on the website, you could go check out there. We have a bunch of other podcasts and video stuff posted there. You've heard a little bit about that, like the Super Mario, Impossible Mario, Super Nathaniel World.
That we were to that.
You might also be listening to this podcast on the YouTube channel, in which case we implore you to check out our actual internet website, GameCola.net.
Wait, we have that?
Yeah, an actual internet website. GameCola.
Are we on iTunes?
Yes, we are on iTunes. I was going to do a little bit where I was going to pause and let Jetty do the gaming outside the mainstream thing again. But I guess that's not happening. Sorry, Jetty.
It's okay.
We are on iTunes. If you want to listen to this podcast on iTunes and get little notifications every time we upload a podcast, you can just search GameCola on iTunes. I don't think there's going to be much issue there. You should be able to recognize like the little icon that goes with it. And those get posted pretty much immediately when they get posted to the site, I think.
Under what circumstances are we not on iTunes?
Oh yeah, if you didn't like the podcast, we're not on iTunes actually. So you don't even have to worry about like that whole rate feature that's on iTunes, especially.
It's not there.
Yeah, so
don't worry
just
about
don't.
It. You can just leave.
What is an iTunes? Go listen to Spotify or something like that. You can also find us on various other. You can find us on our Twitch channel that we might be doing some cool stuff with in the future. Jetty, do you remember what the name of that is?
Pretty sure it's GameCola.
Just GameCola? Okay. So yeah, just search GameCola on Twitch. You'll probably find it. Like many other things, such as our other social medias, Facebook, search GameCola, Twitter @GameCola.
Ooh. Because this is vaguely Halloween themed, do we have a Tumblr?
Tumblr.
We're everywhere. You can't escape us. That's the spookiest thing of all.
And if you want to contact the GameCola Podcast, you can do so by emailing us at podcast@gamecola.net. And you can ask us questions just like our good friend Nolan.
Good friend, what's his name?
Good friend.
What's his name? Look down on the field.
Yeah, and I believe that is everything, unless someone wants to correct me on that.
You're wrong.
Well, then, again, thank you. Happy day after Halloween, everybody.
And potentially 15th of November.
Yeah.
And potentially like 3 years from now when this makes it to YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people could watch this at any point. Like, really, it could be like, 5 million years in the future, and we've got like people digging up old YouTube archives, and it's like, whoa.
And this podcast is the one piece of civilization that survived the apocalypse.
We're sorry. The only thing they have. I hope so.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for listening. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Have a lovely time of day, whatever it is where you are, and see you next month.
Goodbye.
Bye.
High def.
He's going to edit the wiki.
So ground control to Major Jeff. Ground control to Major Jeff. Those aren't the real chords.
And we'll put the audio file on top of our Christmas tree.
That F was actually close, but I don't know what the second chord is.
So,
of Jeff Sharp.
Oh, speaking of, good joke.